Morning, everybody. How you doing? Again, it feels weird to be in here with the mask off. It is kind of nice. I get the privilege today of being the only one, well, right now that has a mask off. So great to see all you guys here. You can open up your Bibles to Matthew chapter 25. So go ahead and open up your Bibles to Matthew chapter 25. We'll be looking there today. But it's great to see you guys all here this morning. Welcome. We've got a couple of visitors here today. Good to see you too. I'm not the regular guy. Mike's Burnham does a great job, and he's usually the guy up here. So anyways, how many of you guys have heard of the phrase Kodak moments? You can raise your hand. I'm sure most of us have, right? It's become an American icon of American pop culture, right? Kodak moment, I guess it was coined in about 1992, where they had a commercial, the Kodak company, and they said, you want to capture those Kodak moments. So what is a Kodak moment? Well, they're moments that are kind of sentimental, or they're special, or they're kind of funny or crazy, that really will last in your mind forever, right? They're very special moments. So not just like your everyday moments like, hey, you got up and you brushed your teeth, right? Something special like maybe a first birthday or a birth of a loved one or a wedding or something like that, right? So Kodak moments, keep that in mind. Now, how do we capture these Kodak moments? Well, I've got some ways that people in the past and right now have captured them. We have, first of all, a Polaroid camera, and my daughter let me borrow hers. She loves using this one. But Polaroid cameras are great. And just to show you some of the features here, as you know, Polaroid cameras, when you take a picture, it gives you one of these almost instantly, right? And if you wait for about a minute or two, you kind of blow on it or whatever, you can get it to show the picture. So you don't have to wait to have it developed. And this was really cool back in the day when it came out, right? You were able to get those instant pictures. Of course, once you have the picture, you can't really make copies of it too well, can you, right? You got a picture here and you're like, well, I like to give some to my aunts and uncles. Not really that possible. It was a little more difficult to do that, right? Another kind of camera we've got here is a DSLR or digital camera. There's been multiple kinds of these cameras throughout the days, right? And they're getting better and better, of course. But these cameras are great because you have a limited number of photos on this camera, whereas this camera, you can pop your memory card in. I don't want to take it out right now because I don't want to mess up my daughter's stuff here. But anyways, there's a memory card in here, and you can put multiple memory cards in. You can capture thousands of photos on a memory card, right? Pretty amazing when you can only get just a couple out of this thing. You can instantly see those photos just like this on the screen. You can see if they look good, if you want to change them around. But it's very expensive, right? These kind of cameras. Another kind of camera, which we're actually going to focus on today and take a look at, is a disposable camera. And they do still sell these. I was kind of worried when I thought about using this in the sermon. Are they going to sell these things? Can I find a store where I would purchase one of these particular cameras? And sure enough, Target sold this. So I got a disposable camera there. But disposable cameras are meant to be a one-use. In fact, that's what it advertises it. It says a one-use camera. And so we had the one-use camera there. And because it's meant to be used one time and thrown away. It's got a particular number of pictures to use, and once you've used those pictures, you can put no more pictures on it. Although I heard there's a way to do that, but we'll pretend like you can't put any more pictures on it, right? But you can't see these pictures usually. You take a picture, you don't totally know how it turned out, where this one, you can see exactly how it turned out, right? This is kind of like a guess. It's like a mystery. How did that picture look? And you've got a limited number, again, on this, and we're going to, again, take a closer look. And finally, a camera that most of us use is our phone camera, right? And so we use these cameras all over the place because they're in our pockets. They're readily available. They're also expensive. They also give instant results, and they also take tons of pictures, right? We can even delete those pictures, and we can take more pictures. We can get rid of the ones we don't like, So a lot of different cameras that we got going here. But again, I want to take a look specifically at the disposable camera. And here's a quick diagram, because I like to present to you guys that a disposable camera is much like our life. And you're like, okay, how's that? How is this like our life? Well, number one, it's disposable. And I'm not saying that we're worthless, that we just throw ourselves out. That's not what I'm presenting here. By all means, no. Jesus died for us. So obviously, we're of an innumerable value, right? But this camera only has a limited life. It's a one use. You've got a one-use life too, don't you? You got one time to be on this earth. You're not going to be reincarnated. Hate to disappoint you if you're thinking that. You got this one time to be here. Also, it can't be reloaded. How many of you guys have regrets? I know I do. I know those regrets have made me shed tears. And I wish they never happened, right? We all have them, every single one of us. We wish we could take those moments back, but we can't. We don't have a DSLR camera type of life. We can't just delete the moments we don't like and replace it with other moments that we do like. No. Our life is more like the disposable camera, because once you take that picture, it's there. It's imprinted on that film that's going through the camera, and when you develop it, that's what's going to be there, right? Another way, it must be developed, right? Sometimes we take that picture and we don't know how it turns out right away. It's not like some of the other cameras here. Actually, all three of those, we can see instant results. This one, you cannot see instant results. You might have a moment. You might interact with someone in a way. Maybe it was a way you're proud of. Maybe it was a way you're not so proud of, and you don't know how that's going to turn out. You could have an impact on somebody, today. It could be 2 days from now. You could have an impact on somebody 10 years from now you don't even know, based on an action you take today. Seriously, you can. So we don't know how they're going to turn out. And I think the most important feature is, we kind of have to do a little pretending here. Let's pretend like the frame counter is broken. So most of these cameras have a frame counter, especially disposable cameras. And this one, I think, has 27 photos, 27 exposures. But what if I couldn't see the frame counter, and I didn't know how many photos are left, right? And I was capturing moments. Which moments would I want to choose to capture? I mean, I only have one picture left. I might have 3. I might have 5. I don't know. Our life's like that. Because, we're not guaranteed even tonight. We're not guaranteed tomorrow or next week. That's how it works, right? And I'm okay with that, because we've got a better place to go. It's going to be okay if this is the last moment that I get to live today. I'm okay with it. But how am I using the time that I've got here today? How am I taking maybe that last photo I might have a chance to take? I might not have any more to capture today. You might not either. So we're going to take a look at that today and kind of compare as we look at Matthew chapter 25. And I like to read from verse 14 here. I'm going to go ahead and read that. It's up on the screen in case you'd like to look at it. But it's great to open your Bibles. One of the things I found, I used to use an electronic Bible. I'd bring my iPad to church and make notes on it. But I really had a tough time finding where things were in relationship to each other, right? Like, where was this particular verse in comparison to this? And I had a tough time gathering a conceptual understanding of how the Bible all worked. When you get your paper Bible, it really helps that conceptual understanding. So I really highly suggest you use that today as we look at our Bibles. And it reads, "For it is just like a man about to go on a journey, who called his own slaves and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, each according to his own ability. And he went on his journey. The one who had received the 5 talents immediately went and did business with them, and earned 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had received the 2 talents earned 2 more. But he who received the 1 talent went away and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, for a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled the accounts with him. The one who had received the 5 talents came up and brought 5 more talents, saying, 'Master, you entrusted 5 talents to me. See, I've earned 5 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' Also, the one who had received the 2 talents came up and said, 'Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I have earned 2 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' Now the one who had received the 1 talent also came up and said, 'Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. And I was afraid. So I went away and I hid your talent in the ground. See, you still have what is yours.' But his master answered and said to him, 'You worthless, lazy slave. Did you know that I reap where I did not sow, and I gather where I did not scatter seed? Then you ought to have put my money in the bank, and on my arrival I would have received my money back with interest. Therefore, take the talent away from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more shall be given, and he who will have an abundance, but from the one who does not have, even what he does have shall be taken away. And throw the worthless slave into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And you've heard this story before. I think it's even one that non-believers know, right? The parable of the talents. Now, that's really a man-made title, right? And I know you know this, but in the Bible, or most Bibles like mine, I read the New American Standard and the ESV and sometimes the New King James too, so those three. But my main one's the New American Standard. And you'll notice that there's titles in those Bibles, right? Those weren't in the original manuscripts that were written by the original writer. They're man-made. And sometimes they can be a little deceiving to us, especially when we think about that this was a particular culture back then when the Bible was written, and we have a different culture now, right? And I'll bring more to that in a second. But they're man-made headings. In fact, those three Bibles I mentioned there, which are your literal word-for-word translations, are probably your most reliable versions. It says parable of the talents in all three of those. In another version, a lot of people use, the NIV, New International Version, it says parable of the bags of gold. And you're like, that's strange. Talents? I thought that was like your abilities and stuff that you were given, right? And then I see bags of gold. I mean, what are these people thinking? But I think it really lights it up into what this particular title means here. There we go. So what does it mean today, talents? I think we use our today definition of talents too often, or definition of anything. A lot of times we use today's culture and today's language to interpret what the Bible means. And that could be a mistake a lot of times, because it was written in a different time in a different culture. Was it meant to apply to us today? Of course. But sometimes we got to look at the culture back then to understand completely what the authors were trying to tell us, right? So today's definition isn't going to work. We have to go to the Greek, which the Bible, as you know, is originally written in, at least the New Testament, not the whole Bible. But what talent means in Greek, and this is the weird word, is talenton. It's a balance that which is weighed, a talent. Now that sounds a lot more like the New International Version might have a little bit better of maybe a more clear definition for us to understand, right? Maybe not better, but a clearer one that in today's culture helps us understand that really what it's talking about here in this passage that we just read is like probably amount of money, most likely. It's a commodity, but probably money that these people were given. It wasn't like an ability or a skill, okay? So let's keep that in mind as we study this, because that's an easy misinterpretation a lot of people can have here with this particular passage. So let's get to the three slaves here, or three servants as many versions say, right? So what does it mean, or actually what do they have in common? Well, they were all given talents, right? Different amounts, but they were all given something. And it wasn't a gift, if you notice that, right? Well, this is a gift just to be taken and used however they wanted, and they got to keep it. No, this was not what it was. The master entrusted them with particular things that they were supposed to then take and increase and make them larger for the master, so that when he came back, they could present that higher amount to him, right? That's what was supposed to have happened here. I like to focus on just the first two people here for a second. And let's read here. It says the 5 talents. It says, the one who had received the 5 talents immediately went and did business with them and earned 5 more talents. Now notice a couple of the words there. I love the Bible in this way. This is how you understand it, is you look at every word. Every word matters. Every word draws a picture of what's going on in our Bibles, right? Amen. In fact, even when Brother Mike Franklin, which you did a great job, brother, with that Lord's Supper today, but you talked about, or you read a passage in Colossians chapter 1, and it said that Christ combines or ties them all together, and he holds them together. I've read that lots of times, and I didn't notice that. And today it really stuck out to me. Little things like that. Immediately. Look at the word immediately there. What did he do? Did he wait? No. As soon as he got the talents, he probably walked out the door and began trading or doing business, as it says here in this version, but trading those talents. Immediately did that, right? And the second slave, in the same way. Now, we got to take the Bible for what it's saying here. It means in the same way. I would take it, he immediately went up and did business with them. Both the slaves did the same thing, right? So what do you picture them doing? You picture them being really busy. Now, I looked at this passage that I was studying for the sermon. I was thinking, well, what does it mean to trade talents? I always heard this story, and I never looked into detail about what that actually meant. So I looked at Rome. This is the empire that they were under at this time, right? At the time Jesus is speaking this talent or this parable out. So I looked at what does it mean to trade talents in Rome, right? Well, let's look at the context of the historicalness of this passage here. It says, not just a single transaction, but many transactions. So he didn't just take those 5 talents, walk up to somebody over here and say, great, 10 talents, done. Wouldn't that be easy? That would have been way too easy, right? That 1 talent guy would be really sorry if it was that easy. But I'm having a feeling it wasn't that easy because he didn't do that. There's work involved, right? In fact, let me give you a little more of a picture of what this means. The commodities and goods were not localized. So you couldn't just go down to your Walmart and find your bananas and get your camera and also maybe get a drill, and Walmart pretty much has everything these days. By the way, I'm not advertising Walmart. But you can go to stores like that or Fred Meyer or Target now. They've all added grocery sections, right? And so it seems like you can get everything there, right? That wasn't how it was. One country might have specialized in lumber, right? In fact, in the Old Testament, they talked about how they had to go get lumber from somewhere else in order to build the tabernacle, right? Or maybe they had to go grab some stone from somewhere else. So the commodities were localized, meaning they were in a particular area. And I meant to put that map on here, and I remember now I didn't put it in my presentation. There was a cool map. But anyways, it was localized, okay? So think about that. You can't get it one place it's localized. That means in order to make these trades, people had to go to different places to get what they needed, right? Okay. Now, in the Roman Empire, a trader often had to travel great distances. And great distances, from their perspective and our perspective might be different, right? Back then, a great distance might be just going up to Bonnie Lake for somebody because you got to walk it, right? A lot of times. But they had to travel great distances. Now, they would travel 2 ways, basically. One way is they travel by railroad car. No, just kidding. They wouldn't travel by railroad car. They would actually travel by boat was one way, right? So they traveled by boat. But, 4 or 5 months of the year is winter time. It was too dangerous. And so they wouldn't travel during those times, right? And also, you're taking a great risk because there's storms out there. They didn't have weather.com to go to and see, hey, what's the weather going to be like today, right? They probably did this. I don't know what they did, but something, right? But anyways, it was dangerous. Or, you know what? The Romans, they had beautiful roads. That's one of the things I've noticed as I've been studying about Rome a little bit. And their roads were amazing. In fact, they're still there today. You can still walk on some Roman roads that were built like 2,000 years ago. Pretty crazy, even longer than that, right? But the thing is that they had these beautiful roads, but you couldn't travel on them very well. You had your feet most of the time, or their forms of transportation on them were pretty rudimentary, okay? So you weren't able to travel very easily. So think about this. If you're somebody that has a trade, you've got to make multiple transactions, you've got to travel great distances and not the best conditions, right? That's a lot of work. In fact, we can say that these 2 guys right here, trading was very involved and required a lot of dedication. Okay? They had to devote a lot of their time to what they did. Think about that. Now let's go and think about I wanted to say too about trading and how would you make like 5 talents into 10? Well, there's a show called Barter Kings that, I kind of think it's a little bit of a fake show, but it was around back in about 2010, 2012. And these gentlemen would take like an item and they would trade up, right? They would trade this item up. So they get like, and this is totally hypothetical, by the way, don't try this. It's probably not going to work. But they might take like a coffee cup, for example, and they might purchase it. They might take $5 out of their wallet, drop it down the table, they get a coffee cup, maybe at a Goodwill or something, right? Garage sale, I don't know. Then they take that cup and they might trade it for a lamp. Now, why would somebody trade, say, a $30 lamp for a $5 mug? Well, because they have a lot of lamps maybe, Or that lamp's been sitting in the garage and it's collecting dust, but they really need a coffee cup. Think of those materials being localized in the Roman Empire. Do you think people would have a need for certain things and maybe not for others? Yeah, if I had an abundance of something like, say, stone, I'd freely give it away just to get what I really wanted, right? And so you could get some more value there. So maybe you take that lamp and you trade it for a bike that's worth $100. Now, you see how the value of these things is going up? Again, maybe somebody has this old bike, dusty bike in the garage, but they know their grandmother loves this kind of lamp, and they want to get it for their grandmother's gift. So they gladly get rid of the bike. I get this valuable lamp. And of course, this person trading up is getting value. And maybe finally they trade that for a gold ring or something. I don't know what happened. Somebody's got an extra gold ring around. I'm just trying to make a hypothetical situation to show you simply how this might have happened. So now they could take that ring, sell it, and have $250. Wouldn't that be cool, right? So $5 turns into $250. 5 talents turns into 5 more talents, or 10 talents, right? Okay, so now let's look at the other person here. The 1 talent person. What did he do? It says, but he who received the 1 talent and went away and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. He hid his master's money. What do you picture him doing? Now, the other guys, I picture them going all over, trying to find these, these good deals, right? They're working, and they're doing things for their master. Now, this guy might be doing a lot of things too, but he's not doing anything with the talents. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. I don't know what he's doing, but he's not trading the talents. Why? Because he buried them in the ground, okay? He can't do anything with them at the moment. So what do these 3 slaves have in common, though, again? Excuse me. I'd like to point out that they were entrusted with the talents from their master. Their master expected them to take care of those talents, and their master expected them to have gain from those talents, all right? You know, one thing I'd like to get out of this, too, is that there's really no excuses. We read this portion. I'm going to reread it here. And this is what that one slave said when he came back and he was to give an accounting for what he did. He said, now, the one who had received the 1 talent also came up and said to the master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter. And I was afraid. So I went away and I hid your talent in the ground. See, you still have what is yours. Look at those excuses. He says, in bold, I put it up there, I knew you to be a hard man. And he says, I was afraid. Right? Okay, master's going to be like, okay, I get it. You thought I was going to be tough on you. I'll let you buy. You were scared. Is that what happens here? No. We are all given an accounting here, along with these slaves. There's a time of reckoning. You'll notice here it says, now long after the master of those slaves came and settled accounts. And by the way, this is the 2 that did something, the 5 and the 2 talent. It says, Master, you entrusted 5 talents to me. See, I have earned 5 more. And he says, well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Into the joy of your master. So what happened? Why did they get that positive praise back? Because they took what they were entrusted with and they did something with it, right? Whereas the other slave who buried it in the ground, he says, you know, that he came and settled accounts with them, the master did. From the one who does not have, even what he does have shall be taken away. Throw the worthless slave into the outer darkness. Why? Because he had what was entrusted and he didn't do what he was supposed to do with it. Okay? So again, we can see there's a difference here. So, you know, I would like to present that this isn't just about talents. This is about things that you're entrusted with. Yeah, in this example, it's probably like a bag of money, bag of gold or something. It's a weighted portion of gold, how they'd trade money a lot of days. But we're entrusted with things too. Think about some of the things you and I are entrusted with. Wealth and riches. I mean, we are very wealthy and rich, and you've heard this many times from people up here saying that, right? I mean, just having, like, I've heard carpet on the floor is amazing, you know, or having these lights, or, you know, you guys all drove here in a very nice vehicle with heat in it. I mean, we are rich beyond most people's wildest dreams, and we don't realize that. But we're entrusted with those things, right? Wisdom and knowledge and understanding. It's so cool that we have the ability to understand what God says, to learn new things, and to teach those things to other people. The ability to learn to interact and create with people. I mean, that's just so cool. I mean, that's what drives human beings, is learning about new things, isn't it, right? Time. How much time do you have? You're entrusted with an amount of time here on this earth. Family and friends, yes, they're entrusted to you. You know, especially if you're like a parent and you have little ones, or a grandparent and you have little ones that you have, for sure they're entrusted, but everybody in your family is entrusted to you for some way or some reason or another. Health and strength. And sometimes, you know, being young like I am, I totally take this for granted. But there's times where I do get sick, or I twist my ankle or something, and I can't do all the things I used to do, and that's so minor compared to what other people are dealing with. But it does make me realize how lucky I am on the times that I am healthy, right? I mean, it's a blessing, and it's something we're entrusted with. Visitors or strangers that we come across or even come into our building here, we're entrusted with those people. God has trusted us by them coming here. And finally, we're entrusted with the gospel. I think that's the most important, the good news, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. If it wasn't for that resurrection, we'd have no point of being here, right, as Paul had said. So we're entrusted with all these things, and I want you to think about that. Since you're entrusted with things, do you think you're going to be treated any differently if you take and you bury those things in the ground? If you don't do anything with those things that you're entrusted with? If you just live your life like everybody else lives them? Do you think you're going to have any different of a judgment? I don't know. I'll let you answer that question based on the text that we've been reading. And I want to read further here just to see a little bit more. So I would ask, what specifically does this mean? What specifically does God want us to do with this? And he provides a beautiful outline by just reading a little bit further here in Matthew chapter 25. So let's go to verse 31 and keep reading. It says, "But when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then we will sit on his glorious throne. And all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them from one another, just as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right, but the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me.' Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give something to drink?'" And I love the humility there. They don't even know what they're doing, right? They don't even know that it's special. "And when did we see you as a stranger, invite you in, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?' And the king will answer and say to them, 'Truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did it for me.' Then he will also say to those to his left, 'Depart from me, you accursed people, into the eternal fire which has been prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in, naked, and you did not clothe me, sick, and in prison, and you did not visit me.' Then they themselves also will answer, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or as a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not take care of you?' Then he will answer them, 'Truly I say to you, to the extent that you did not do it for one of the least of these, you did not do it for me either. These will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life.'" So, again, the Bible's all about context, right? Mike Brenham and I've taken a class from him on Bible skills, and that's really the most important thing that I learned from him. And I kind of knew it a little bit too, being a teacher, but he really drilled it home that it's context. And so you ask, does this even apply to us, or what does God mean by these talents? Well, look, immediately after telling the parable of the talents, he goes and tells the parable of the sheep and the goats for a purpose, for a reason. There's a reason why he put it there. He's trying to give us a message that this isn't just about gold. This isn't just about weighing gold and getting it to be more. It's about more than that. It's about the things that we're entrusted with. That's what it's about. Amen. That's what I get from this. So I've got the sheep and the goats here. Put a couple pictures up for the kids. Hopefully you enjoy those. But the goats, again, if you're a goat or somebody is a goat, they give nothing to the hungry or thirsty. They're not hospitable to strangers. They ignore the needy. They don't visit the sick or the prisoners. And how does the Son of Man separate these again? Well, he looks at the sheep, and they're the folks that would feed the hungry and the thirsty. They'd be hospitable to strangers. They would help the needy. They visit the sick and the prisoners. And I propose to you there's more than just these examples, right? These aren't the only things that you're entrusted with or the only things you can do, but the things that you can do. Now, I want to actually, I'm going to skip to something here. In the back, I've asked the elders if we can do something. It's an idea that I actually got from Scott Beyer. He came here and preached a gospel meeting, which I hope we get another gospel meeting here soon. They're so edifying. But he came and he had said an idea, and it just stuck with me. This is like 2 or 3 years ago, so I can't take credit for it. And I'm sure he wouldn't either. He would point you to whoever gave him the idea or whatever. But he said, you know, what you guys could do is you could just get like a bulletin board out there and put some note cards on it of ideas that people could do. Here's the deal, brothers and sisters. This is why I'm preaching this sermon today. Coronavirus has shut us down, if we're honest. It really has. It's put us inside our houses. It's made us, whatever. It's made us kind of draw back from the Lord the things that we always do to serve the Lord. It just has. I'm guilty of this too. All of us are guilty of this. And we did it because for a season we thought this thing was dangerous. And we wanted to help our fellow mankind because that's what we're asked to do, right? But it's drawn us back, and it's kind of put those brakes on what we always have done for God. Amen. Right? And we need to do something. Amen. Oh, Nathan, are you holding up that for a reason?
Yeah, I took a photo of it already.
Oh, Nathan took a photo. Okay, so anyways, I thought he was giving me some kind of a reminder back there or something that I was supposed to do something. Anyways, it's drawn us back. And it stopped us from doing the things we always do. And here's the deal, is that I know you guys. And I know that you guys love each other. And I know you want to serve God. And sometimes, if you're like me, you don't know what to do. You're like, I really want to do something for the Lord. But I especially right now, not being able to go anywhere or whatever, I don't know what I can do. But I want to do something. Amen. Well, we put together a board outside, and it's going to be in a more permanent location eventually. But right now, it's just next to the announcements there, and has a bunch of cards on it. And it gives you ideas about what you could do. And so, and kids, I want to tell you that this board is not just for the adults here. It's for you. Because you know what? Kids, you guys have more power than we do. It's amazing how people receive you. It's almost like not fair to be an adult anymore. I wish I could go back to being a kid. It's like you do something, and it's like a times 10 power over what we do as adults. It really is, because adults they so value it, and they love your positive example. So this is for kids and adults here too. Yeah. But it says no cards on the board, show good works, that can be done. Anyone can add note cards to it, right? If you want to add note cards, there's a way to do it over there. It tells you how to add a note card. Anyone can grab a note card. It's not just for adults, for kids too. I just said that. If you grab a card, you're committing to doing it, right? You've now gathered up those talents. Don't bury the card, please, okay? Don't want to bury the card. That's a bad idea. Or just put it somewhere where you're going to lose it, if you're like me. Cards have all the information that you need on it, right? It'll have, like, if it says, for example, to write a card to somebody who's a shut-in, it's going to give you their address. It's going to give you maybe a phone number you can call them at. So everything you need is there. It's real easy, right? There's going to be a completed box. So once you complete the task, you just put it in the box so we know it's done, didn't get lost or whatever. And then some cards are colored. Please keep those on the board, okay? If it's a white card, you can take it with you. If it's a colored card, leave it on the board, because it's something we'd like more than one person to do. We don't want to write like a bunch of cards. It takes forever, right? So to be more efficient, just take your phone and maybe take a picture of it or something, or write it down on a piece of paper. But you can take a card, again, that's white. Colored ones leave up there, okay? So I want to go back to the cameras here. There we go. I want to go back to these cameras that we had at the very start. And again, we talked about how our life was like a disposable camera, right? And the thing I thought was most like it is this frame counter on the top. And I would ask you, how many more moments do you have? How many more Kodak moments? I hope I didn't break a copyright law there, but how many Kodak moments do you have left in your life? Honestly, I think about this all the time. Do you have 4? Do you have like a couple years or 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years left? Do you have just maybe 3 Kodak moments left? Maybe you only have 2. Or maybe today or this week is your last moment. We don't know the time. Only God knows. And because of that, we don't know when our master is going to return, so we got to make the most of that time. We got to start immediately. Remember how those guys started immediately, the 2 slaves? And in the same way, we should also start immediately on whatever we do, right? Start today. There's actually cards up there you can grab or take pictures of. Or maybe you got a different idea. You don't have to do those things up there. I'm sure you can figure out other things too to do to serve God, thinking about the things that you're entrusted with. I want to leave you with one verse here before we end our day. It says, you, us, we are all the light of the world, a city on the hill that cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand. Do people know? Do people see your light? And it gives light to all those who are in the house. Your light must shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. We're asked to shine our light, not to glorify ourselves or so people will give us a nice pat on the back. Hey, nice job, Scott, way to go. That should be our motivation. Our motivation is to glorify God because He wants us to, because He's our master, and because we've been entrusted with things, and He's going to come back and take an accounting for those things He's entrusted us with. And He's going to ask us, what did you do? What did you do with your family? What did you do with the money and wealth I gave you? What did you do with all that time you had in your hands? Are you going to say, I wasted it? Are you going to say, God, I made the most out of those moments. I did everything I could to do my best to bring back a profit or whatever. I can't even think of the word. More than you gave me with the things that you entrusted me with. I mean, what's your answer going to be? So at this time, I want you to think about, how you can serve God. And also, you know what? If you haven't become a Christian yet, I know there's a lot of people here that would love to teach you about the gospel. And I'll tell you, it is the most wonderful story you could ever read, because it gives us hope. So many people right now are living in fear. If you're already a Christian, this is the time to go and spread that joy to other people that you and I have, right? It's the perfect time. We think here the devil's doing his work. He's tearing apart the church. No, God is giving us opportunities. We need to take those opportunities and bring an increase. So if you'd like to come forward this time, or even just see one of us after services, or if you're online, go see our website, and we've got some information about how you can learn about the gospel. And or if you just need some help, let us know as we stand and sing the song of invitation.